Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Forestry Briefing with Forestry Journal. I'm Forestry Journal Managing Editor John McNee. I'm joined as always by Deputy Editor Jack Haugh, and today our special guest is John Bruce, Confor's National Manager for England. And this is a very special episode of the Forestry Briefing because we are recording at APF. So it's a bonus episode essentially.
And we have our first guest as well.
We have our first guest, yeah. It's special for several reasons. And we're also marking the 30th anniversary of Forestry Journal, which is why we have this beautiful piece of artwork from Chris Wyatt at CTS Arboriculture, made out of old climbing ropes. This is not an epitaph. It is celebrating.
It's not a tombstone, despite reports.
30 years of Forestry Journal, and anticipating many decades ahead. And as I said, we are broadcasting from APF 2024, where we should thank all of the sponsors, but I haven't written all of them down. I don't know, Jack, if you can remember who they all are.
Well, they're in the programme, so if you've picked up your programme, you'll see them there. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's just thanks to all the sponsors. I think it's probably best to do. And
yeah, thanks to all the sponsors of APF, the UK's largest forestry, trees and timber show. Fantastic event, and I think we should probably start off by giving our own thoughts and experiences. Maybe, John, you'd like to tell us how you found the...
I was just going to say, first of all, 1994 was when I joined the forest industry, actually, right, at University of Edinburgh. So, that's quite a long time ago. So you've obviously been around a long time as well. So
we don't mean to make you feel old, John.
Yeah, so in terms of, it's been a very tidy show. It's well organised. This is obviously our second time at Ragley. And I must admit, the committee, the volunteers that sort of look after the show and basically, they really put on a really good show, and keep things together, sort of thing. So it's excellent.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of program events has Confor put on this year? What have been the main topics of discussion?
Yeah, so we've had a seminar program. On Thursday, we basically focused on putting sort of timber and wood back at the heart of forestry. We really feel there's momentum there, and we had some really good discussions. We actually looked at deer management and how we can do more, including controlling other mammals like grey squirrels, and how we can improve timber quality. We even looked at agroforestry and how we could actually grow timber and agroforestry systems, which is another branch of obviously getting more trees into the landscape. And then moved on to the National Wood Strategy, which was launched last year. That is a really important document. It's got government endorsement. We've got a timber crisis, and we need to plant essentially more softwood in England, as well as obviously Scotland does a decent job, but we do need to do more. I'll talk about that later on, obviously. And then we looked at sort of like tree breeding. We've obviously got probably one of the best tree breeding success stories in the world with Sitka spruce. Obviously, we can't rely on one species in terms of like pest and disease, but it is an amazing success story. So we were looking at other alternatives in terms of species that are being improved. Obviously, this takes a long time to do. But also the Future Trees Trust as well, who are doing a lot of excellent work with some of our native broadleaf species and improving them, which I think just gives us more options, especially for timber as well in the future.
So what's been the highlight of the show for you, John?
Well, we've had a very good show these past couple of days. I think we've spoken to a lot of exhibitors and generally had a lot of good conversations trying to get a feel for where the industry is at the moment. And people are, I think, generally positive, if a bit apprehensive about the coming 12 months, about what exactly lies ahead. I think there is a feeling that certainly in terms of sort of the major manufacturers and people that we speak to, that there was a big boom in forestry during COVID and post-COVID, and now there's a kind of that's on the wane a bit, and things are returning to normal in many senses, the pre-pandemic levels. But you've been out plenty. What have you seen?
Yeah, listen, I think it's been a really good show now. Obviously, I totally understand that APF has changed. We look at our archive pictures and it's totally different 20 years ago, but It's changed, I think, to become a bit more all-encompassing of what the industry is.
Yes.
I've spoken to a farmer, for example, that have their first forwarder on the stand. I've spoken to Novotny, a kind of brand which was in the UK looking to break back, but we have wood chippers, we have firewood processors. We can see them at the fuel wood stand just in front of us. But I think it's really interesting to see how it's changing. But I think this has been a particularly good year for the show. I think partly because of what's behind us. You can maybe just see it over my shoulder, over John's shoulder there. You've got the forwarder competition that's back for the first time in a number of years.
The good thing about the events programme is it really showcases the incredible skills that are in the forestry sector and how incredibly talented a lot of people in the industry are in different sectors.
I mean, look at the chainsaw carvers behind us. Can anyone imagine doing that?
Yeah. I mean, it's just great seeing young people as well at the show. They've actually, over the last, particularly today, but we've actually had students today that we've been giving a tour just to showcase forestry. They're obviously making decisions about their futures, and we want to attract them to a career in forestry. And I've actually been doing a little bit of work with the military as well, and people, veterans and those that are leaving the military, to showcase forestry as an option, and we've actually been really delighted to get a couple of those actually into the industry already since I did that earlier on in the year. So it's really, there's a lot of positivity just now. Obviously, we've just got a new Labour government, and it is a very early stage. Unfortunately for the show, we've had a general election, then a parliamentary recess, and it is very quiet. And I would say I'm cautiously optimistic in the fact that we've got a timber and construction roadmap that sets out some plans for, we need to get more timber into construction, particularly in England, where we're very poor on using timber for our sort of timber frames and things like that. 9% of homes in England use those, whereas other countries, and even like Scotland, are using 90% timber frames. So there's massive opportunities, but we also have to look after the supply, the future supplies, and that's something we'll talk about in a little while as well. So,
well, maybe we can just sort of move straight into the heart of our topics. I mean, when you talk about we need more productive forestry, we need more productive timber being grown in England. I mean, what happened there? What was the challenge? Why? Because that's something we used to do. Why hasn't that been happening?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're very lucky to come across some very fast-growing timber species from other countries, particularly in the Pacific West Coast of America, Canada, and we plant them here and they grow so much faster and really successful in our oceanic climate. So, it has been a big success from 1919 to go from a very small percentage, was it 4 or 5% tree cover, up to sort of 10%, and obviously in ever increasing percentages of across the UK. But probably, I know to some extent, there was obviously a lot of blanket planting. Quite often the land that we use, particularly for the likes of Sitka spruce that likes wet sites, it was ideal for, in some cases, peaty sites, so we're planting there on peat. And clearly there's been a recognition that we've got stored carbon in those areas, and it's actually bad in terms of release of carbon dioxide. So there's been a rebalance there, and some of the things we did, bear in mind that it was on the poorer land generally. It's also some of the best land for nature. So, I think conifers have got a bad name, but there's been a lot of improvements. Forestry standards have improved. We've got the UK Forestry Standard that makes sure that we have a more balanced woodland, a resilient woodland. It's good for nature. So we can still grow timber and still benefit all these things, and we just need to get that perception changed. So that's what we're aiming to do. It's a lot of it's about perceptions, education, but ultimately the bottom line is in the last 20 years in England we have planted an average about 5% conifer, 95% broadleaf. A lot of that is through the incentives, although the Forestry Commission will say that when they offer incentives now through the UK Woodland Creation offer, which is called UCO, that essentially they will pay for you to plant conifers. Although there is additional contributions that you can get enhanced, and it seems that by planting native species you'll get more. If you want to have carbon credits and go for carbon credits, then obviously that's going to stack up more towards woodlands that are not going to stand on their own 2 feet without having, obviously that sort of carbon sort of like income, if you like. So it's under sort of additionality, which I won't go into the details of that, but certainly we need to find a way so we need to encourage more green investment for planting productive forests, Possibly some incentives as well would be good. But how do we get that conifer figure up? And
I think that's so interesting. That's why a show like this can be good. As much as for many of the kind of the dyed-in-the-wool harvesting boys, etc., they might say, "Oh, it's not for them," but you can reach new audiences. So, for example, about an hour ago, there was a girl on our stand who was an ecology student, I believe, and she didn't really know much about forestry. She was here to kind of learn about it, and I was talking to her. I was explaining, with the UKFS, it's so much we stick to these standards. But I think her question was, "How sustainable is forestry?" It was something like that, and I was like, all of it. That's what we do. Like, it's a sustainable industry. Like, and it's just trying to get that message out to people that might not otherwise know.
I think a lot. We've come across a big issue, particularly when you talk about the use of timber in construction, is that people don't understand or appreciate it. Not the general public, not people in politics, not a lot of people across the construction industry. Maybe you could tell us a bit about how the roadmap that you've devised is challenging that.
Yeah, I think first of all, what we've got to take the helicopter up and look down, and the fact of the matter is that we import 81% of our own timber, which
crazy number.
It's shocking, really. And every time you tell someone, they think, "What? That can't be right." Well, it is right. We are currently the third largest net importer of timber in the world. Only basically behind China and the USA, although the USA have got timber and they will fluctuate, so we'll go back to the second again like we were last year. So it's pretty poor, and we, if we want to take a global scale, potentially we are bringing in timber into this country that could well have actually exploited and damaged other ecosystems that are not protected. And I know we've got certification, and we a lot of us will buy certified timber, whereas there's assurance through the Forestry Stewardship Council, FSC, etc., that that is sustainable. So, but I think that we need to be more self-sufficient. We're never going to be fully, because we've got a fairly small lump of land. But if you look at England, we've got 10% forestry cover, or just slightly over. We've got 4% of that as well is like trees outside woodlands. So really, if we're at 14.5%, it's not a lot really in the scheme of things. And I know the Forestry Commission have done a lot of great work on low sensitivity mapping to try and identify areas where there could be a presumption to plant, and to give more certainty to investors that if you actually want to plant in this scheme, it will work. You'll get. It's not going to be stalled. It's going to happen. There's more certainty that it's actually going to go ahead. So there's positivity there. But yeah, the other thing about timber and construction, it's the three little pigs. You're not going to have your house out of straw or wood. Because we can have it out of bricks. But equally, I believe in the past there was some programmes. There was a panorama programme about timber and construction and the risks, fire risk, etc. So that's basically it's something that's maybe stuck as well. But there's a lot of work done in wood and construction, and you can build in resilience. So I think that it's the safe use of timber and scaling it up, and is the way forward. So.
And you can tell we're definitely an outside event because we're getting wet here, aren't we? This is the true forestry spirit. But
do you think we should maybe relocate inside for the second half of the podcast?
I think we're fine here. Let's come on, crack on. This is the authentic experience. Foresters watching this aren't going to go inside, are they, John? Oh, that's good.
Advertisement for the Forestry Journal.
I think though there was one point I think you really made there, John, which was really good about the fact that people are surprised when you tell them about 81% of wood comes into our country. I have a friend who did an event with us actually one time, and she was like, "Oh, but there's so many trees." And I think that kind of plays into this attitude that people that don't want us planting conifers, don't want us planting Sitka. For me, there's a kind of assumption, you can just put it somewhere else. Just essentially export as they see them, export the problems of conifers to our country. Who cares? They won't ever visit it. But I don't think that's fair. That's not true. One, I don't think there are problems with it, but let's presume we're working on their basis, their argument there.
Yeah.
You can't just export the problems. You have to take in and actually have it here as well.
And the thing is as well, that obviously we've got a nature crisis. We definitely have. We're losing a lot of biodiversity. We're one of the worst in the world for that because we've got so many people in the UK, such a big population, a lot of built environment. So we are losing lots of nature. And I think creating more woodlands. Confor's obviously we obviously very much support businesses associated with using wood, but equally we're also foresters, and we appreciate the wider benefits of forests as well. And we want to provide space for nature, and we know by creating more woodlands we can do that. But equally, you can grow. They're not mutually exclusive. You can have both. a lot of sort of even commercially focused plantations, etc., if you want to call them that, they can provide havens for wildlife as well. And
red squirrels, pine martens.
Exactly. You can go on all day about what you can provide, and even the design of those woodlands with open space, native components in there as well, native species, corridors. It's such a lot of work goes in to planning a forest now. But equally, yes, we can have native woodlands as well. But we need more scale, more space to grow timber as well. So I think certainly something that Confor is advocating, and it's in the National Wood Strategy. We feel that the 16.5% statutory target, which will take about another 250,000 hectares in England to achieve that, that's like 10,000 hectares per annum. And going back to the target that we achieved this year in England, which was the best for almost 20 years, we did 4,500 hectares. That's great, but we're only halfway really to actually get that statutory legal target hit by 2050. So that's certainly a challenge in there as well. So.
I know I have questions, John, but I've got a quick one here. I know the planting season hasn't quite started yet, but you're mentioning about our target there. From the noise you're getting from speaking to people in the industry, how ready do you think we are to A, hit that target, hit the same level again, or B, exceed what we did last year in England?
I think there's definitely there's no doubt about it. We have ramped up a lot. I would say that clearly it's chicken and egg, isn't it? With everything that I think we need to give more certainty for investment in equipment, contractors. We need to get more skills in. Because there's some contractors just now that are not doing planting. They are finding other alternative works in gardens and things like that to sustain the income. But so I would say that once we're ready, we need to really broadcast that. But I would say I would like to see like a bigger cake. I was talking earlier, sorry, a bigger part. I digress. But 16.5% is about 250,000 hectares we have to achieve. Confor believes we need to go another percentage up. Let's go to 17.5%. That is another 130,000 hectares, and then we've started to got the cake we need to deliver for nature, the economy, because it's all about economic growth. This government has said it's all about economic growth, synergies, and what better synergy between different departments than actually focusing on timber? Because the government has also stated that they want to build lots of homes. We want to get building. We want to rebuild or build Britain. 1.5 million homes. That is phenomenal in a parliament if they achieve that. But I would argue, think of the emissions associated with construction, and how do we ensure that we get more timber into construction, because we know that's carbon neutral. And that is where we start to get the gains from sequestering the carbon in the forest and actually locking it up in long-term uses is really where, there's nothing wrong with burning wood as well in certain circumstances. It's good for local economies, it's green energy, it's renewable to some extent, but we want to try and get as much as we can into long-term use, and that will store up that carbon, and it will, hopefully, we play our part as part of the world and what we've signed up to do. To work towards net zero.
I was going to say on the subject of conifers and timber planting and various things, do you still see Sitka spruce continuing to be the bedrock of the industry for the...
Especially with like IPS, for example, becoming more prevalent?
Yeah, there's no question about it. IPS is a serious pest. It's concerning what's happened in the continent. It's decimated in areas, Norway spruce. They're having to look at other alternatives now there. Obviously, Norway spruce is a predominant species in the south of England, although in a lot of cases it's on its edge as well in terms of stress. And with stress and wind throw, you've got a lot of host material, because IPS loves and will attack stressed trees. That's how it gets in, and once it builds up its momentum, that's when the concern starts. But at this stage, it's a fantastic plant health response through the IPS sort of like incident management team that have been formed. They've got a huge amount of effort goes in from surveillance, monitoring, etc. So there's, and then obviously the rapid response as well, the controls, the movement of timber, etc. So there's a lot of work goes in, but the key thing for us is, will this get into Sitka? And we actually know obviously it will attack Sitka. Certainly there was some stressed Sitka in the south of England where it
next to Norway spruce, I think, wasn't it?
It was in Norway, but there was a few sort of like blown, snapped and cut sections that got it as well. So, you know, that was obviously a real alarm. It just shows how important it is that we need to get this right. Now, I would say we need to look at alternatives, but if you like, Sitka spruce is here, and at the moment, everything else is there. Now, on certain sites, you know, Douglas fir is a fantastic tree, for example, and it can keep up with Sitka, but generally speaking, there's no other tree in terms of what it does and how it's been improved like that. But yeah, I think so. We need to look at alternatives. I don't think we should be writing Sitka off because it can grow so fast, and I think that we need to think about rotation length as a sort of part of resilience more. So, you know, the fact is, if you're going to grow Sitka spruce on a rotation of say 25 or 30 years, then in terms of risk management, you know, yes, there's no question it's a risk, but you know, I think as well we've got to get the balance right. At the moment, the only structural timber that we've got on a big scale at C16 is Sitka spruce, stress grades to C16, and you know, we want to use more of it in our homes. But yeah, I think yes, we can't put our eggs in one basket, but equally, I don't think we should write off such an important bedrock of our industry.
Yeah. So I guess maybe because it is beginning to get a bit wet, and obviously we will probably want to move on. I guess it'd be good to kind of get your thoughts on where you think forestry is in England and where it's going. Because obviously we speak to a lot of people, we hear a lot of things. You know, we've spoken there about the planting figures, but so much of that was broadleaf. Like I can't remember the exact numbers, but so much of it was broadleaf. It wasn't productive species. Now, nothing wrong with broadleaves. No one's anti-broadleaf, but it's not. That's not going to provide the timber we need in 20, 30 years. So, where do you think we are kind of generally in England going forward?
I think that the last couple of years have been really positive for forestry, and it's nice to see the turning up of productive forestry. We've got huge investment. You know, I was lucky enough to go and visit the tailor-made sawmill recently. James Jones obviously have taken over that, and they're making a massive investment there, you know, which is going to be about efficiency to try and get more out of the wood that we've got, get more locked into construction and things like that by actually maximising what you get out of logs. Yeah. And you know, so it's just fantastic to see that commitment from family businesses, etc., to do that. We've had really positive signs from the previous administration, the previous Conservative government. We've got a timber and construction roadmap which has now been published, which had cross-party support from, you know, certainly from Labour, because I was at a forest industries group down in Westminster, and Sue Heyman, the Baroness Heyman, sorry, she was very much saying that this is a cross-party document, which is good to hear, because Sue is now actually in the in DEFRA now. Yeah, exactly. So that's good news. So we're hoping, what we really want to hear is the government coming out and being really positive and seeing the benefits of timber and construction, you know, the benefits of more homegrown wood as well. And I should just say that when we talk about timber, you know, we're really talking about softwood in terms of the bulk. I mean, hardwoods are so important, and we want to grow more hardwoods, more quality hardwoods as well. But we've got to be realistic. About 92% of the timber we consume in the UK is actually softwood. And that's not an anti-hardwood thing. That's purely because of the product, the properties, how the uniformity, etc. That's what we've got, and that's why we need to create more sort of softwood forests. The other aspect as well is we need more people in forestry. Yeah. And I think that momentum is starting. You know, you've got to start somewhere. We've dwindled away. I mean, I was lucky to do a forestry degree at university. That's all gone. I would love to see that coming back again. Yeah. And there's no reason why, if we get to the scale of planting 10,000 hectares a year, that the jobs are going to come. It's just that we need that commitment. We need to see that annual target being hit year on year. And we need industry to get involved. We can't rely on the taxpayer. We've got to get the industry part of that as well.
Well, did you?
No. Listen, I think that covers a whole lot. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I think that
you can tell we filmed this in one take, can't you? That's it there. But
no, I think that would be a fantastic message to end it on, and for people to take away with them. And if you're in the industry and you're not already a member of Confor, then you should certainly give a thought or two to maybe taking out a membership. And if you like the look of the Forestry Journal umbrellas,
which do work in the end.
Contact us.
Yeah.
About, because we've got a few which we brought for this event, and they've justified themselves, I think, or they will do this afternoon, from the looks of things. And generally, I think, any final thoughts about APF and...
No, listen, I think it's been a real good show, and really happy to be here. And I think, this is the first time the range really properly come on now. Obviously, as soon as we start to film this year, but that is forestry. That is September in England and the UK, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you again for joining us. Do join us again for the regular forestry briefing, which will return in October. And until then.
And thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Yeah,
Thank
of course.
You.
Thanks.